Welcome to Charts This Week. My name's David Linton. I run Updater, and this week's edition for Monday, the 25th of April, comes to you from London. And we start, as always, with crude. So crude oil prices, big strong day there, middle of last week. On 20th of April, we really did jump up on that. We had fallen to the weekend on the talks in Qatar, but it's interesting that we have recovered to make a higher high, so that is quite bullish for the price short term. We see the correlation negative with the dollar, which is what we expect. Commodities goes up, dollar goes down, or vice versa, and we see here that we are in quite a nice uptrend. This $40 level now pretty critical. If we fall back through into the 30s on Brent, then that would possibly be the beginning of the downturn for the end of the summer. And we see here that we are through the cloud. We did much the same thing last year. We were through the cloud. It was around about May that we hit the high point, and then it was down from there. So we do just need to be cautious of the fact, whilst the cloud is giving us a bullish reading above the daily cloud, we do need to be cautious of the fact that we are in the time of year where the seasonality starts to roll over, and we saw that again last year. May started to wind down, and so we wouldn't be surprised to see the price starting to fall away at the same time this year. But for now, the medium-term picture is bullish, and the short-term picture is bullish. We're above the cloud here. We see here that the big moves up, counter trend move, small move, and then another move up. At this level, we are just testing the cloud again today. Shift T on your system will give you the trends and targets, and we see here we're down 2% on the downside target, but we still do have an upside target not yet activated of 7.7% to $48. Now, given the time of year, we see that target as potentially being difficult to meet. And then we see here on WTI much the same picture. 42 is now a critical level there with 43.20 this morning. Shift T, and we do see this 42.30 and 40.70, so we do have some downside targets. There was an upside target given back in early April to $45. We haven't quite got there, and of course failure to meet the targets is a bearish signal, the upside targets. The 1 minute chart, this is for anyone trading crude. This is Brent. Again, all these prices coming from Thomson Reuters Icon. We're just running Icon here in the background, so all the data coming in from Thomson Reuters Icon. Shift T, and we see here we've now just gone into a little mini downtrend. We do have some upside targets, but these just in the very short term, i.e. today, next few hours, we have these short-term targets hanging over us. Remember, if you're an Updater client, you'll be seeing this on the Monday. If you're not an Updater client, you'll be seeing it the day after. Clients come first. So here we see Henry Hub gas prices. Quite interestingly, still below the cloud on the weekly, below on the daily. We have had a little bit of respite on gas, partly again because of the time of year, just heading into the stronger quarter for gas on the seasonality here. So we are seeing prices just breaking to the upside, and that's pretty good news for the price. So 214 at the moment. Of course, this 260 level that we saw in January, that's the real key level to break in this downtrend. So we are aware that at the moment we've got quite a bit of work to do on the daily. We've got to get really convincingly through this sort of 230 level to turn bullish. And we didn't do that last year, so we did on the price, but not on the lagging line. So it'll be interesting to see if we can we'll do the same again this year. The 60-minute chart is bullish, especially with the recent moves above the 210 level. Shift T will give us some upside targets, but really nothing much to play for at the moment. You can, of course, adjust the box size down in this bottom right-hand corner. 229, there is a target, but we're seeing just a little sell-off coming in at the moment. So go to the 1 minute chart when the targets are not so clear. Shift T on the NYMEX data. Again, adjust the box size down in this bottom right hand corner. And we do have this 209 target. We're at 214 at the moment, and that isn't quite yet activated, but it does suggest that there is scope for the prices to fall back. So keep an eye on those 1 minute charts this week. If we take a look at European gas, strong recovery in European gas last week, about 10%. We had some very bullish days there. What's interesting, of course, is that we are still below on the cloud, so it puts us in a bearish frame of mind. We are hitting resistance on the cloud. The correlation with Brent is increasing, so it's just starting to turn positive, so that recovering in oil is starting to have an impact on gas prices. And we see here we really do need to get above the sort of low 30s, 32 level for the lagging line to be through and for us to start entering a bullish phase. The 60-minute chart, of course, is bullish. Shift T on this chart will give us some trends and targets. If we can make new highs, 33.50 on MVP front month, so that's another 10%, but we do also have this downside target back to 27, so about 7% downside. The 1 minute charts, again, will give you that granularity. The data either coming off your Trayport system in real time or the updater energy feed direct from the brokers in real time as well. And we see here, again, we've got mixed targets. Just to adjust the box size, and much the same picture. Upside of 10, 14%, downside of about 8%. Just be really key to watch that, even on the 1 minute chart. TTF also had a strong week. We see the pickup here, hitting cloud resistance though at the moment, so a bit early to call, but that is quite a strong recovery there. And if we shift T on this chart, it's going to be difficult to read. If we get new highs, this target was given. This is the 60-minute chart. This target was given to 12.98, and that was met. We've now got a new upside target of 14.45, but we need new highs above this 13.05 level for that to be activated. So keep an eye on that. NCG and Gaspool picture, as you would expect, similar. If we look at European power prices, again, very strong recovery in power prices, having nudged the lows sort of 20s here. We did recover over 10% last week, just really pressing up, and the lagging line now really on the cusp of being through the cloud. So it's a bit early to say, but we didn't manage to do that last year around this time, so this is looking a little bit bullish, suggesting these markets might have just become a little bit oversold. So what's the target? Well, of course, this run gives us the first thrust, and the key thing will be, can we run higher and reach these targets? So 25.10, 25.90 currently the upside targets, and again the 1 minute chart from either your Trayport screen or the updater energy feed real time from the brokers. Shift T, and we see here downside target not yet activated to 23.55 and an upside target to 26.35. So quite a lot of volatility there to play for. We see UK base prices were also very volatile last week, recovering, and NordPool also putting in a strong showing last week. So European power had a good week. The big thing is, can it hold on to those gains and then move higher to activate those targets? When you look at currencies, the dollar just sort of teetering along the bottom here. If we look at the 60-minute chart, we see that it did actually recover back through the cloud. So this dollar index off the low 90s, 94 was the sort of low point. Everything waiting on the Fed this week, so that will be really interesting. If we look at euro dollar, we see here on the daily chart we're still above this 114 level, a bit of resistance there. So medium term, the euro just showing some strength, but short term just turned bearish against the dollar. This real sort of double candle pattern here, like a high pole. Shift T, and we see we do have this downside target of 109 for the euro against the dollar, but all these upside targets are around the 118 level, still very much in place. This trend is up, but could easily be broken. So the Federal Reserve comments are going to have a big impact, of course. And if we look at the 1 minute chart, Shift T, again, adjust your box size in the bottom right hand corner. It does favour the downside on the very short term, but we do have some upside targets as well, so quite a mixed picture. We have to wait and see what the announcement's going to bring. If we look to some other currencies, sterling against the dollar. Sterling just recovering now through the cloud on the daily, but the lagging line still below. We see here on the 60-minute chart that this uptrend is mostly in track. And then Shift T, we do have another upside target of 147.40, but we need new highs to activate that. This 145 level, previous high, really quite significant. But there is some signs of some basing going on there with sterling. Of course, the long-term picture, the medium-term picture is still pretty bearish. Now, if we look at euro sterling, we see here very much in a downtrend, having gone higher, so that's falling back to the 77 mark. So sterling showing a little bit of the upper hand there. Same with the Norwegian krona, recovered last week to the sort of high 920s, and then here we see the Swiss franc also just showing some strength against the euro, and sterling recovering against against the Swiss a bit at the moment. So that 134.50 low really critical. Can we break back above this 142 level? One to watch. If we take a quick look at stock markets. S&P 500 didn't actually manage a strong close last week. It just didn't get back above this 2,100 level. That's proving a little bit difficult for the market. If we look at the weekly chart here, we see that we're just struggling with this previous high to get back above that high. So the lagging line has gone through the cloud, then back above the cloud on the weekly. We're just really in a bit of a range-bound situation at the moment, and we need convincingly to break above 2100, and then probably around 2200, 2150 to really just be convinced that the US market can run again. And of course, we are heading into May, and the old sell in May, go away. We might see some downward moves as well. But at the moment, it's on a knife edge. It's pretty hard to say. Bit disappointing that we didn't see the market breaking through that 2100 level. Bullish on the daily and bullish on the 60 minutes still. Also, just a move above this 2100 would give us a column of just taking out that previous high would be significant. And we see here on the 0.5% chart, this would give us a thrust target as well. We do have a downside target to 2029 if we do break to new lows this week. That's on the short-term chart, but again, a lot of upside targets to play for. So we still favour the upside with the market and all these upside targets. We just do need to be wary that we have got a downside target that might start to impact us. If we look at the NASDAQ, these are my tracker charts, of course, so these are in the updater libraries. If you look in your updater menu, you have to get them from the libraries, and you can follow me. So here we see the NASDAQ never actually went negative on the weekly, so that's still bullish. Above on the daily, but has turned below on the 60-minute, which the S&P hasn't. So Nasdaq's just looking a little bit more bearish at the moment. No clear downside targets, so the picture is quite mixed still, but it is a bit more bearish than the S&P. If we take a look at the European markets, FTSE was just climbing to some new highs there at that 6,400 level, but we're just selling off again. So we can see here on the weekly that we're below. On the daily, we are above. And the 60-minute, we're just heading below now. Downside targets here as well. Quite a mixed picture. Very similar picture to the US markets, but probably just a little bit more bearish. If we take a look at Xetra DAX, the German market, bearish on the weekly, just bullish on the daily and bullish on the 60-minute chart, but again some downside targets. Quite a mixed picture here as well. Taking a look at Asia, we start with the Nikkei, and we see here that bearish on the weekly, still bearish on the daily, but trying to get through. Bullish on the 60-minute chart. Downside on the longer term point and figure charts, but the short term 6.5% upside. So maybe we'll see a little bit of a recovery there. If we take a look at China is the market that's probably worrying me the most at the moment. We are wandering out of the cloud here on the weekly chart. And you can see here that we are just below the cloud, so that is a bit worrying. If we come back to go below these levels, then China has significant downside, 50%, 45%, 50% downside if we make new lows in China, and that would be very destabilizing if we did fall quite quickly to those levels. We saw big sell-offs last time. It does look like that's possible again if we make new lows. Keep an eye on the 60-minute chart because that's going to give us the downside targets. They're not there at the moment, but we just need to be very well aware that China is got to do more to recover back above that high. If we take a look at the Indian market, India looking still pretty good long term, is 60% upside, 67% upside. We've got this new medium term target of 19% and a short term target of 11%. So India bullish on the daily, bullish on the 60-minute, just bearish on the weekly. And then if we take a look at the Australian market, closed today for Anzac Day, celebrating the veteran soldiers in Australia, but we look at the week, had a bit of a strong recovery towards the end of last week. We see here quite a good week, has put us clearly above on the daily, not yet on the weekly. A nice run there through the week on the 60-minute chart, and we see here upside potential of 13%, but the downside is still a bit mixed. That's it for this week. Until next week, happy charting. See you then.